Hello everyone, I'm going to be doing a baking video now today and I'm going to be making lemon meringue New York style cookies. So to get started we need to break our meringues into smaller pieces. You don't want to do them too small though, otherwise when you mix them in they'll get too crushed up and then they'll just disintegrate when baking. So you want quite nice large chunks. And for these you want the crunchy meringues you get from the shops. So you want pieces probably about that size, so quite big. And yeah, you want the nice crunchy meringues, not the soft ones. I mean, these ones are a bit softer than what you should probably have, but they should be all right. You want the really crunchy ones so then they don't break up loads when you mix them in. I think the best ones that we've used so far are the just like Tesco own brand basic ones. The Tesco Finest ones are the ones that were a bit more marshmallowy and soft. But they should still be okay. I will obviously let you know when these have baked. And for these you want 50 grams of meringue. And you just break them all up into pieces. So like I've got all of that broken up. I've still got more to break up. I made these cookies for the first time, I think it was last week, just because I wanted to, kind of thing. And when everyone tried them, everyone absolutely loved them. So these are definitely going to become a new staple in my baking. So I've got a bowl of broken up meringue pieces here. So that's all ready for later. Next, you need a nice big mixing bowl. It doesn't have to be this big. I just prefer working in a big mixing bowl because then there's less chance of me spilling everything. But I still get messy. Next we need to zest 2 lemons. I will do everyone. So the first step to make these cookies is we need to put 75 grams of granulated sugar into our large bowl. It is best to make sure you use electric scales are the best because then they're nice and accurate. So it's 75 grams of granulated sugar. There we are. And then our next task to do is we need to zest 2 lemons into the bowl. And if you just go to you don't want to go all the way through to the white bit because the white bit's really bitter. So you just want to take off the top really yellow bit. And it's best to use a nice fine grater rather than the one with the really big one that you'd normally use for cheese. So I'm going to just zest these lemons and put you on a time lapse now. Hi everyone, so I've just zested my lemons and put them in with the sugar. And our next step is to rub the lemon zest and sugar together between our fingers. And this is to help intensify the lemony flavour within the cookies, as rubbing the lemon zest in with the sugar helps intensify the lemony flavour. Apparently, I learned on Instagram, I think it was, or TikTok, or on a video somewhere. So you just kind of pick it up and rub it between your fingers like that. And this works with the zest of any citrus fruit, but because obviously we're making lemon meringue cookies today, we're doing it with the lemon zest within our recipe. And you just rub it until all the sugar kind of turns a really nice yellowy colour is when I stop. So then all the flavours kind of in with the sugar. And then it should be really nice and lemony. It does mean that you get your fingers a bit sugary and lemony. Alexa, stop. Sorry, that's our robot speaker going off. But then you can just like brush, you can just rub your fingers and brush as much of the sugar off as you can. And then probably wash your hands. But then you've got a really nice yellowy, sugary mixture. So I'm just going to wash my hands then. Right, now I've washed my hands and they're all nice and clean again. Our next step is to add some light brown sugar, and we need 100 grams of soft light brown sugar. This is what helps make the cookies nice and chewy, and it also gives them a slight caramelly flavour in it. Yeah, the light brown sugar is mainly the thing that makes sure you can get nice chewy, gooey cookies, which is good. Nearly there. There we are, got 100 grams of the soft light brown sugar. And now our next step is to add in 125 grams of either soft room temperature butter, or you can use like baking spread / margarine, which I'm using because it's just as easy and it's just as good. So we need 125 grams of this. That's a big lot. That might be a bit too much. I'll take a bit off and go from there. And you just add that to the same bowl where you've got your granulated sugar that you mixed with the lemon zest. So you put your light brown sugar in there as well, along with your butter or margarine. You will all have to tell me how this video's turned out, because it's like my first time doing like a YouTube video style thing, so I don't know if I'm doing it right or doing it well. So you'll have to tell me how I've done and whether it's okay, or if there's any tips that you'd give me to do it better next time. There we are. I've got my 125 grams of margarine in there, so it looks a bit like that. And then we just need to cream this together, so that means just mixing and kind of pushing the margarine or butter up against the side with the sugar, and get all the sugar mixed in with the butter / margarine, and you mix that all together until it's nice and light and creamy. And no, don't worry about putting the oven on just yet, because we don't need to put the oven on until later, because these are types of cookies that need to chill in the fridge. While I'm just creaming this butter and sugar, I will take this video off, so then you're not just watching me cream and me not do anything else. So I'll see you in a minute. Right, hello everyone, we're back again. My butter and sugar is all creamed nicely together. You want it nice and soft and like this. Just to say, you can use a stand mixer or an electric hand mixer to make these cookies as well if you want to. I just like doing it by hand, because then I can pretend I'm in training and ready to pump some iron. Yes, that was a Starlight reference. A lot of my videos, if not all of them, are going to have some Starlight references in them, because, you know, I'm obsessed with Starlight. Starlight is one of the big things I'm obsessed with in life, if not the only thing I'm obsessed with in life, apart from giraffes and Disney. It's Starlight, giraffes, Disney, and I'm happy. Anyway, I go off on a tangent. I'll do that a lot as well. We've got our butter and our lemon granulated sugar and our light brown sugar all mixed in nicely there. So our next step is to add 1 egg into our mixture. So we just crack that on the side and add that into our mixture. We use the whole egg and you can just plonk it in and then beat that in. I like to attack the yolk so it all goes runny. I don't know why, I just like attacking the yolk, and then we beat all of this in. So then it's all nice and combined. It will start looking a bit, don't worry if it looks a bit like curdled and scrambled eggy. That is normal and it won't stay like that for long. You've just got to beat it really well, like really fast, and use all your muscles, and then it will turn out well. Or if you're using the electric or stand mix or hand mixer, I'm not going to judge you. It's okay. I sometimes use them. I just also like doing it by hand because it gives my arms a workout. And also it's sometimes just easier for me because I think it can help achieve a better cookie texture. And make sure you try and scrape off your spoon, so then all the mixture's combined nicely and you don't have just some like butter and sugar on your spoon, because that won't be good. The spoons I'm using are silicone spoons, as I find them easier to hold and grip, and also when you've done all the cookie dough, silicone is easier to scrape all the bits out so you can get as much of the dough as possible, which is good. And then you get a cleaner bowl at the end of it as well. So that is my egg all beaten in now. And now what we need to do is add in our plain flour, baking powder and bicarbonate of soda. So we will need 300 grams of plain flour. So it's quite a lot of plain flour for the dough, but it is to make sure the cookies don't spread too much, because these types of cookies are ones that are nice and chunky because they're New York style ones. So just weighing out 300 grams of flour, and then I'll be back. And it's important to make sure you use plain flour and not self-raising flour, because if you use self-raising flour, then the cookies will puff up too much and turn out more like cake than cookie, which you don't really want if you're making a cookie. Right, I'm going to be back in a minute because I forgot to get out a couple of the ingredients. I'll be back in a sec. I'm back, everyone. I just forgot to get out the baking powder and the bicarbonate of soda, but I'm now back. And I forgot to say before, but I like to add in a teaspoon of lemon juice when I add the egg, which I'm going to just do now, just to help make a bit more of a lemony flavour. And I think it makes it better. You don't want to add more than a teaspoon though, because otherwise your cookie dough will get too soft and then it won't work properly. For the baking powder, we need 1.5 teaspoons. And it's best to use measuring spoons like this, the ones that are proper baking measuring spoons, because then you can make sure you weigh it out properly. I'm using just a half a teaspoon measurement at the minute. That's why I'm doing 3, in case you got a bit confused. And then for the bicarbonate of soda, we need just half a teaspoon of that one. So just 1 of these instead of 3. And it's important to make sure you get the right ones, because although they look very similar, they are very different ingredients. So you want to make sure you get the right ones. And now we've got all of our flour and our bicarbonate of soda and our baking powder in a bowl. We want to give this a good mix until all the flour and everything has combined and we get a nice thick cookie dough. Oops. Even though I'm wearing an apron, I've just put flour all over myself. That's why you've got to be careful, and that's why I have a bigger bowl. But as you can see, it is best to have a bigger bowl because we've still got ingredients to add, but it is not essential. It's how much you know yourself and how messy you're going to be. I always know I'm going to be messy, so I always give myself a nice big bowl to work with. And the reason why I'm baking these cookies today is because we're going to Guy's Hospital in London tomorrow for 2 days of physio for me. And for the last 3 times I've been there, I think, I've baked for them. I baked mini egg cookie bars for the first time. Then I baked some brownies for them. And then today I'm baking lemon meringue cookies to take with us tomorrow. So they love it when I come because I always bring goodies for them. But it's just my way of saying like thank you to them, and it gives me something nice to bring for the hospital, because hospitals are not the most fun places, but they're needed. So it gives me something fun to do in the lead up to the hospital. I used to bake a lot for the hospital when I was on chemo, because every week when I would go for my chemo, we would always bring something for the nurses. So they soon learned that we would always bring something. And the first question when we walked through the doors was, oh, not how are you, Lily? It was, oh, what have we got today? Because we always brought them something. But it was always fun to bake for the nurses, and they always really enjoyed it and deserve a treat because they work really hard to help keep everyone well and look after people when they're poorly. So we've now got our cookie dough, and our next step is to add in our white chocolate chips, which we need 300 grams, so 3 whole bags of white chocolate chips, and we just add them into our cookie dough. I'll bring it down for you, and then it's a bit easier for me. Oh, try not to spill them everywhere. So that's 1 bag in. Then we've got our 2nd bag going in. And then lastly, our 3rd bag to go in. It is a lot of white chocolate chips, but it's what makes the cookies so good, I think. What makes them so good for everyone is how much white chocolate chips are in there. So, oops, I've just dropped some. Trying to show you. I've only dropped up about 5. I'll pick them up in a minute. But there's all the white chocolate chips. Sorry this video is a bit chaotic. It's my first one I've done. And then we need to add in our big bowl of meringue chunks. And then if you see any really, really huge pieces that you want broken up a bit more, then you can always break them up. But then you just mix all your meringue and white chocolate chunks into your cookie dough, and then that's the cookie dough basically done, which is good. Sometimes it is quite hard to mix the meringue in, so I find it easier to, because now we need to portion out our cookie dough. The recipe makes 8, and you're meant to weigh them out to be about 120 grams each to make the proper New York style cookies. But that makes really, really, really huge cookies. So I normally do about 60 grams, and they're still really nice sized cookies. So I'm doing my 60 gram cookies. You can obviously do whatever you want. I just prefer doing the 60 gram because then you get double the amount of cookies and they're still a really nice size. So it's like, that's a 60 gram ball of cookie, and they do spread a bit. They don't spread loads like some cookies because these are nice, thick, chunky cookies. But I think 60 grams is a nice cookie size. So I'm just weighing out all my cookie dough now. I'll probably put you on a time lapse while I do this, so then you're not having to sit here and listen to me just waffle on. So onto a time lapse we go. Hello everyone, we're back again after that time lapse, and we've got all of our cookie dough into balls. So what we need to do is we just need to put them back in our large bowl, or this is what I like to do. I like to put them back in the large bowl, and then these will need to go in the fridge for about an hour just to firm up, and then we'll bake them after they've been in the fridge for about an hour. If you wanted, you can put them in the freezer for about half an hour. It really doesn't matter. I just prefer doing the fridge because I find it just a little bit easier for me. But you can obviously do whatever works best for you and everything. So these are like the size of the cookie dough balls. They're as even as I can get them. There's obviously going to be some that are bigger than others, but that's okay. People can fight over, if people really want to, they can fight over who wants the biggest cookie. And they're not all even, like with meringue and stuff, because they're not meant to be. Or I don't think they're meant to be. So I'm just going to pop these, all my cookie dough balls, into the fridge for about an hour. Then I will come back after they've been chilling and relaxing in the fridge, ready to bake them with you. Hello everyone. And this is just another video. The cookies have all been chilled now for just over an hour. It doesn't matter if you leave them for well over an hour. I have before. And I've got one lot baked, and the second lot are all on the trays ready to be baked, which I'll show you in a second. The baked cookies, I baked them for about 11 to 12 minutes you do them for. And I do flatten them slightly after being baked. So these are the ones to be baked, and then I've got another tray there. And just put these in the oven that's been preheated to 180 degrees fan or 200 degrees electric for about 11 to 12 minutes. And then you just need to leave them on the tray for about 30 minutes after taking them out the oven, before removing them from the tray, because they continue to bake while cooling, as they're nice, to keep them nice and chunky and gooey and soft and chewy in the middle. You have to leave them for like half an hour to cool on the tray to continue baking. I'll show you them once they're out as well, and then I'll do icing for the ones to bake to show you how I do that. So I've got the consistency of the icing that I like, so it just runs nicely off the spoon, and like it stays nicely as well. Like you can see the icing in it before it disappears for a couple of seconds, which is good. And just a tip for people who haven't made this type of icing before, when you add in the juice, add it in really, really slowly. Like, just start with a little tiny bit, because you need a lot less juice than what you'd think for the icing sugar. I found this out the hard way multiple times, and you don't want to add too much at the beginning, because otherwise you can like kind of flood the sugar and then it won't combine properly. And I'll just show you how I just drizzle it over the biscuit cookies just like this with the spoon. And yeah, but if you find it's a bit thick for you, then you can just add just a tiny bit more juice, and you don't have to use like your lemons. It's just if you've used them for the cookies for the zest, might as well cut them open for the juice, but you can just use like lemon juice in the bottle as well. And I'll show you the cookies once I've drizzled them with this icing. Hey everyone, so these are the cookies after they've been baked. As you can see, they're nice and chunky. All I do is I just flatten them down slightly with just a normal regular spoon. Just like that. Just ever so slightly, because I think it just makes them a bit nicer. This is totally optional. You really don't have to do it. I just prefer to. So as you can see, they just end up like that. And then I've got these ones which were just baked as well. So just slightly flatten. Oh, sorry, paper there. And then just like that. And then there's those cookies, and I've just got to leave these on the tray for 30 minutes so they fully get to cook and cool. As you can see, like that bit's kind of broken away, which is a bit of a shame, but it will be okay. And then I will show you about icing, making some icing for these ones in a minute. Right everyone, so here are the cookies drizzled with the lemony icing as I promised. These are just like the first batch that I baked, but these are what the cookies would look like after you've baked and decorated them. Obviously the lemon icing sugar drizzle is optional. I just like to do it as I think it makes them look a bit nicer, and it also will add a little bit more lemoniness to them. But yeah, these are going to be ready to go to Guy's hospital with me and Mum tomorrow.